The Wildbrain era is a very controversial era for Ninjago. Now, in case you don't know, the Wildbrain era spans between Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu and the latest season. This era of Ninjago is very controversial. It came off the incredibly well-received Oni trilogy, which people regard as the best era of the entire show. When this season was first announced, Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu, it had a lot of controversy towards it. The Wildbrain era brought a new tone to the series after the Oni trilogy, which felt a lot more mature in a lot of areas. The Wildbrain era also brought in the new 11-minute format, which is pretty hated amongst the fans. However, the Wildbrain era also brought, well, Wildbrain, a new animation team for the show. And man, while they were controversial to start with, a lot of people have warmed up to the studio, and some even regard it better than Wilfilm, myself included. There's a lot of issues that are in this era, absolutely. But what do I think about it? Well, since we are about to see a new era of the show, that being Dragons Rising, I think now would be a perfect time to go back and look over each of the installments and rank them, just for the fun of it. I won't go as in-depth into these installments like I did with Prime Empire a few months ago, but maybe some other day we'll come back and we'll revisit each one of these, and we'll give them all the time and attention that they all deserve. We are going to be going through each installment in order of release, and then we'll be ranking them. We will be ranking Season 11 into two different parts. So the Fire chapter, and then the Ice chapter, and then Season 12, then Season 13, and then we'll count the special, The Island as well, and then Seabound. So yeah, let's get right into it. The Fire chapter. This is probably one of the most hated installments of all Ninjago. The way this installment was introduced was very weird. We got it through a leaked Teletoon trailer that really showed off just the comedy and the lazy ninja aspects, and after coming off of the Oni trilogy, a lot of fans were very skeptical and worried. How did it go? Well, I feel a bit mixed about it. Let's start off with the main thing. The lazy ninja are probably what people dislike the most about this chapter, and honestly, I can sort of understand. After the last 10 seasons of development for these ninja, you'd expect them to be a lot more mature. However, I also think that this makes sense. They just defeated the ultimate evil of the 16 realms apparently, so of course they're probably gonna relax, and it has been months. They're just teenagers at the end of the day still. They are obviously going to have those moments. But I will admit that it does feel a little childish at times. People also hate Asphira, the villain. However, I absolutely love her here. She's not one of my favorites, but I love how insane and annoying and just chaotic she is. It's really, really awesome, and I do like a lot of her scenes. She is one of the highlights of this chapter for me, by far. Now, a lot of people complain about the quote-unquote filler in this chapter, but I don't really see it. I don't really see any filler episodes, and I think a lot of fans misuse that word a lot. I will say that this chapter is very, very slow though. It takes way too long to get the plot going, and once the plot finally gets going, it basically ends. We did not need 2 episodes of the ninja in the desert fighting some Bernie the Beetle. Even if it is entertaining, those episodes are the definition of set advertisements. I feel like you just could have cut those 2 episodes out, and we could have actually developed the latter half of the chapter a lot more. Kai's arc is it's not great. However, it's not out of character like people think it is, because this is in character for Kai, as he's been shown to be worried about losing his powers, and judging by Season 5, he was fine with his powers being lost there because everyone lost their powers. Here, he's the only one without powers, and as he says, he will then feel like he is dragging the others down because he is not on their same level power-wise. But it's not handled very well. This chapter, and to an extent this whole era, has a habit of starting something in one episode and having a mandate where it has to end in the same episode, like Powerless, where Kai feels powerless, and then by the end of the episode, he's back to normal. And then we have Under Siege, where Kai is mad at Wu, and then at the end of the episode, they're back to normal. It's a bit of a weird one. However, what I love the most about this installment is that it is just fun. It's just fun and entertaining. Coming off the Oni trilogy, which was fairly mature most of the time, it was nice to get an installment that was just casual. It was just fun and goofy and silly, and not much was going on in terms of maturity or world-shattering events. It was all really, really nice, because the next installment would bring all of that back. But we'll get to that in a second. The animation, while the visuals are pretty lacking, this is Wildbrain's first season, so it makes sense, but the fights, oh my god, the fights are incredible. So many standout fights in just their first installment alone. The ninja versus Asphyra in the museum is awesome, the Forbidden Spinjitzu battle is amazing, just so many fights, including Wu and versus the ninja in the very first episode. However, just because this season is fun and silly and I do get a lot of enjoyment watching it, it's not a standout installment. It certainly exists. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world like a lot of other people do, but I certainly don't go thinking of it a lot. I'll watch it and I'll have fun with it, but that'll be about it, because there's nothing that really grabs me there. But hey, it was a nice, slow start to this era in my opinion. It could have been a lot more, but I don't think it needed to be a lot more, being the introduction. The Ice Chapter. Now, when this first came out, I was extremely critical of it. In fact, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I was extremely negative towards it. I was not thinking properly. After a while, I started to actually enjoy it a little bit. It really started to grow on me. And now, I actually think that the Ice Chapter is not only a good Ninjago installment, but a fantastic one, and one of the best ones we have ever gotten. And I will explain why. First thing, I just really love the story and the atmosphere of this entire chapter. The way it starts is just perfect. It's so mysterious. The ninja have to find Zane in a distant realm, and once they get there, it's so mysterious. People are frozen, everything is under rule by an evil dictator known as the Ice Chapter. We don't know where he came from, we don't know who this Vex guy is, we know Zane is held prisoner there. It's very mysterious, and the way the story builds up over time is extremely satisfying, and even if the obvious plot twist is obvious, it's built to very well, and the execution is awesome. Zane being the Ice Emperor is an extremely interesting concept, but sadly is probably one of the weaker aspects of this chapter. They don't fully go into it that much. The Ice Chapter is a cool villain, he has an amazing presence in the chapter, and his voice acting is simply incredible. Having an evil Zane is so cool, the ninja that's least likely to turn evil. However, they don't go fully into the fact that this is Zane. The reason why Zane becomes the Ice Emperor is because Vex makes him lose his memories. That's it. The laziest way to make Zane a villain. They don't even go much into the whole Forbidden Spinjitzu is corrupting Zane. Yes, it's making him worse, but most of the corruption comes from Vex changing his memories, which I think is really disappointing. Not to mention that the finale is incredibly rushed. It just needed way more time in order to properly flesh out this finale and give a properly satisfying end to the whole Ice Emperor stuff. I would have much rather the ninja be the one to turn Zane with the power of friendship rather than Vex blurting out the word protect. However, it is very satisfying to watch Zane turn to the good side again, and how we slowly see him slowly coming back to his true self as he constantly gets reminders of who he truly is. Now, the ninja in this chapter are really great. Everyone, except for Jay, has something to do here. Cole I was not expecting to get a story here, but it's so sweet and goes more into the mind of this character. Cole's biggest fear is letting people down, being a failure, with his dream showcasing him losing the Traveler's Tea and the ninja being disappointed in him, as if he's let everyone down, which is his biggest fear. And the whole relationship with him and Crag is so sweet, and I love them so much, especially when you take into account the fact that Wu found Cole on a mountain and helped him out with grief, and Cole found Crag on a mountain and helped him out with grief. It's extremely awesome paralleling, and that's one of the biggest pluses of the Ice Chapter. Kai and Nia have very similar stories with their power stuff, and Nia's is actually very interesting, how she would be able to control ice with the water in the ice. Not fully, but in some way, which is really cool. However, again, the finale rushes this conclusion too much and we don't get anything satisfying for her. We get a lot on Kai, how he gets his powers back slowly and becomes more cocky again, only to be humbled immediately and lose the village, which is a huge shattering event to him, and gives us one of the best moments Kai has ever had, where he feels completely guilty about what has happened. Again, his conclusion is not great, but it's at least nice, the stuff that we get before that. But the main reason I love the Ice chapter, the main reason the Ice chapter works for me, is Lloyd. This is a story about self-reflection. People say that this season is about Kai, or it's about Zane, or it's about all of them. But for me, the Ice chapter is a Lloyd story. This is a perfect story as the aftermath of the Oni trilogy. Lloyd in seasons 8 to 10 suffered a lot. He was manipulated and abused by Harumi, who broke his heart, who broke his trust. After the whole incident with Harumi, Lloyd went out and he said that he would never see the best in people ever again. Not to mention the whole thing with his father, Emperor Garmadon, the father he used to love, stripped away from him, who was unrecognizable now. Lloyd is truly traumatized and would never be the same again after this trilogy. When we come to the Fire chapter, he seems to be doing okay, but this is a front. When he sees his fear in the mirror, he sees that his greatest fear is becoming like his father. But Lloyd never actually talks about his feelings or his troubles. That is when the Ice chapter comes in. Lloyd goes on a solo journey in order to save Zane, and he runs into a wolf called Red, who he brings along with him for the journey. Lloyd talks to Red about everything, all of his problems, and vents to Red the entire time. He says that he normally doesn't talk about this stuff, which shows that he's been hiding all of these feelings inside of him for so long, and this is finally the time where he's able to release all of this stuff. It turns out that Red was Akita, a formling, and Lloyd breaks down. He thinks he is experiencing the same thing he experienced with Harumi, how his trust has been broken once again. But this is not the case. Akita is the anti-Harumi, how they both started off with tension and later learned to accept each other and to trust in each other. Both are extremely traumatized people. Both had lost their homes. Both had lost their family. Both had severe trust issues, and both did not want to see the best in people anymore. But running into each other and discussing their issues with one another has caused them to try and reflect on themselves and to try and get over that trauma. When Akita and Lloyd make peace with each other, they start to bring down their walls even more. When Lloyd kept saying he would no longer see the best in people, he is slowly turning back towards his old self with the help of Akita. His trust issues are slowly fading. Let's talk about the villain of the Ice chapter real quick. Vex. Vex's whole deal, in order to make Zane take over the Netherrealm, is because he is angry at the Formlings for rejecting him, for making fun of him. But all of this stuff never happened. He sees the worst in people, even though it doesn't exist. Just like how Lloyd has been trying to not see the best in people, even when the worst, like with Akita, doesn't actually exist. Vex was what Lloyd was slowly turning into if he continued down this path that he had been on. And the whole thing with his fear of becoming Garmadon, when the same thing happens to his friend, he is determined to stop this. He is determined to stand up to Zane and to make him right again, and thus rejecting the whole idea of ever becoming his father, which can also translate to him being closed off, was him basically becoming like his father, who is extremely closed off now. But towards the end of the season, he is finally on the right path in order to heal. And that is really, really sweet to see. That kiss from Akita parallels Harumi's kiss, but in a more healthy way, and one that shows Lloyd that there's still a hope for him. And that's when the season ends. A beautiful story. A wonderful Lloyd story that just wouldn't have worked if Kai was put in the spotlight instead. Fantastic stuff. I don't think this is perfect, but what they were going for was absolutely heartwarming and beautiful, and is why the Ice chapter is one of my favorite pieces of Ninjago media of all time. Prime Empire. I've already made a full video on Prime Empire not too long ago, which you can still check out, and most of my opinions are pretty much the exact same in that one. Prime Empire is a very controversial season in Ninjago. It's not really hated, but it's not exactly liked either. It'll be like how I see the Fire chapter. You'll watch it, and you might have a good time, but that'll be about it. But for me, Prime Empire is also one of my favourite seasons of all time. I could go on and gush about this season, but the main part of it is that it's just fun. And I know I said the Fire chapter was fun, but the main difference is that Prime Empire keeps me hooked and makes me extremely happy with its side characters, the amazing ninja characterization that helps the side characters grow, and the heartwarming messages. This season has a lot of great messages to it, and I really like that. A lot of people do not like the lack of ninja development. However, I'm able to look past it. We don't get development for the ninja, but we get a lot of development for these side characters, which the ninja help with. The ninja are able to help these side characters out with their own struggles from the experiences that they have learned themselves. It feels like a progression season, in my opinion. A season to show us just how far the ninja have come so far. A nice down-to-earth, casual season. And that's the difference between it and the Fire chapter for me. All the ninja are great. Kai and Cole are such an awesome duo this season, and if you know me, you know I really love that a lot. Nia is also great here. I've said this before, but I love her "I'm so done with you" attitude throughout this season with Jay. How she's like, oh, he's gone and done it again. But they still have that sweetness to their relationship, which makes it so much more realistic than other relationships out there, and I do like it a lot. Zane actually gets to be weird for the first time in years. They actually tap into different parts of his character, which I absolutely do like. I do agree that I wish we got more Ice Emperor Aftermath stuff, but the last installment didn't set that up, so I'm more than willing to look past it, for now anyways. Lloyd is standout here. If the last chapter was him taking his first steps to recovery, this season shows his progression from that stage. We see him opening up to other AI in Prime Empire. In fact, we see him trusting them. AI made by the villain of the season, and Lloyd is still able to place his full trust in them. Before the Ice chapter, he would have never been able to do that because of the walls that he built around him. Just such an amazing moment, and I love that for Lloyd. With his fight with Harumi as well, it just shows more of his progression and shows that it's not as straight as it might seem, and that there are going to be bumps along this road to his full recovery as he hesitates for a bit out of shock. An amazing characterization from him this season. This season is a Jay season, and while I would have liked to get more development with him, his connection to Unagami is extremely sweet, and his last scene with him is so heartwarming and tugs at my heart every single time, how they can relate to each other. The side characters hold the season up so much for me. They're all so great. Okino, Blazy, heck, even Scott. I love them all. They're all extremely fun to watch. The video game aspect of the season was controversial, but is handled extremely well and fits well into what Ninjago is. And it's just so creative the way that they're able to merge video game elements into a season like this. And of course the mechanic. I love the mechanic. The fact that he goes from just a thug to the main villain pretty much of a season really shows how amazing this guy is. I love how goofy and silly he is. His scenes with Zane are standout. Pixel is probably my favorite character in this season because we get to see how far she has come as well. How she teaches Milton Dyer about the emotions of AI, which is what Zane taught her all the way back in Rebooted. And that is the word I would use to describe Prime Empire. Progression. It shows how far they have all progressed. If you want to know more about my thoughts in this season, go watch my video. It goes super in depth into a lot of aspects this season. All I can say here is that it is a fantastic season and always makes me happy anytime I watch it. And that's the best thing any season of this show can do. Master of the Mountain. For years, we had been begging for a Cole-focused season. Every other ninja got some sort of individual focus in a season, but Cole. But Master of the Mountain changed that. After 9 years of this franchise, we finally got the Cole season that we deserved. And how did it go? Well, incredible. Absolutely incredible. To start with, the setting is really cool. I really love Shintaro, but I do wish we got to see more of it. It's so pretty and so different to any other world of Ninjago that we had seen prior, or even since this really. The side characters of this season are also extremely fun. Vanya is not like what anyone expected. People expected Vanya to be a love interest, but no, she wasn't. She was just a side character that helped Cole, and who had her own individual arc with her father. She's a really fun character, and I do wish that she was able to pop up more, especially in Crystalized. And the other side characters are the Months and the Geckos, which carry the B plot of this season, and I really do like them. They're very funny, and I think that both have their moments. My favourites are the Geckos personally, because their law system is absolutely fantastic. I do like that even though Cole gets most of the focus, as he should, the other ninja are not irrelevant. The other ninja carry the other plot of this season that is just as important, the plot with the Geckos and the Months. The ninja making the two tribes make peace with each other leads into the finale where they're able to team up against the Skull Sorcerer, which leads into Cole's main plot, which causes both of these plots to overlap, and thus everything in this season is important. Which is a weak aspect of other seasons, of how the writers are able to handle the other ninja that aren't the focus. This season is just really good in that regard. And most of the ninja are great. Zane is extremely funny and seems to have a lot of that character that he gained in season 12. Kai and Nia being leaders is really fun, and I think this is actually a very strong showcase of Nia's character, and is one of her better seasons in my opinion. And Kai is great. I love how the whole point of him being a leader is just to show how bad he is at it again. It's really fun, but we also get some serious moments with him, which I really like. Like that scene where he tells Gleck that Lily passed away is so heartbreaking. And Lloyd, I'm a little conflicted on. He sort of has to gain Vanya's trust again, which can be seen as a step back in his overall story, but in my opinion it makes sense. As I said, his path to recovery is never going to be a fully straight line, and he is going to have those moments. And this is different to Akita, I feel, as this is more of PTSD, as the situations with Rumi are very similar. But Lloyd is going in circles pretty much, and I wish that this season made more of a point to that, and have that be more of his actual arc. We don't really get a middle for it, so it's just a very weak thing in this season. He's definitely the worst part of the season for me, but definitely not bad. He's not as bad as other people say, in my opinion. Now, the villain of the season is awesome and extremely underrated. Vangelis, the Skull Sorcerer, is awesome. I love how he controls both sides of Shintaro, how Shintaro heavily represents heaven and hell, but the same guy is in control and manipulating both sides. It's extremely clever, and I love that he doesn't have this big massive motive. He just wants money and riches, but his methods are unethical and just wrong. I absolutely love this, and it is extremely unique for Ninjago to tackle, and even though this is an outlandish season with geckos and months and powers, it's a very realistic villain, and I really do like that. And his interactions with Cole are perfect, as Vangelis represents everything that Cole is supposed to stand up to. And that leads us to the best part of the season. Cole. Cole is fantastic. He is easily at his peak in this season. I love how the season manages to tie all of his plot threads from previous seasons into one season, with his leadership skills, with his whole promise to his mother, with his relationship with Wu, absolutely everything. It's so lovely. I love how when Cole has hit rock bottom, his first instinct is to lead over the Upply and to get them all going once again. Very similar to Season 4, where he has lost all hope, but when he sees Zane and the other prisoners, that gives him the courage to lead over them and to fulfill his destiny. But this shows that Cole's main attribute is his leadership skills. But without that, Cole doesn't see any value in himself. And that's what the Spinjitzu burst represents. In the final episode, Cole manages to stand up to Vangelis and realizes that he didn't need the Blades of Deliverance. It was just himself that he needs. And for the first time ever, Cole is able to stand up to someone by himself with no help from anyone, none of that leadership abilities, just himself. And that's what the Spinjitzu burst represents. And I absolutely love that. I love how the Upply represent each of the other 3 OG ninja that Cole led over in the pilots. It really brings his story full circle. And his whole story with Lily is so sweet. How he promised her to keep fighting when she was dying, when he was really young. I absolutely love that. Despite the fact that this season is very outlandish, as I've said, with the whole powers and tornadoes and geckos and mons and lava and all that stuff, it's a very down-to-earth story and a relatable one. Someone that is trying to make their mother proud while also dealing with grief and doubting their abilities while standing up to someone that is a bully, that is cruel and unjust, that just wants money and control. It's not this big end-of-the-world scenario. It's a very down-to-earth story, no pun intended, which I absolutely love. Cole is just fantastic, and he is my favorite ninja. So to see him get his own season, and not only that, but to have it be one of the best seasons of the entire series, is so awesome, and I love that so much. Master of the Mountain is a masterpiece in my opinion. It's not perfect, but from Ninjago standards, it goes above and beyond, and I absolutely will always cherish it. The Island. This is a really weird installment. It's a 44-minute special that's supposed to be set up for the next season. And the plot is very simple. The ninja go to an uncharted island to save their friends, and they run into some keepers that are hiding an amulet to protect them from Wojira so that Wojira doesn't flood their land. And then the ninja get their friends back, they stop some shenanigans going on with the island, and yeah, that's about it really. It's a very basic plot, and a lot of people think it's very mediocre, and to be honest, I would say that it probably is very mediocre. However, I really love the island, and I can't really explain why. For starters, the animation in the special is beautiful. I fully believe that Wildbrain hit their peak with this special. The lighting, the sets, the characters, the fighting, the ocean, just everything. There are so many beautiful shots that are just breathtaking. And this special is super fun in the sense that it's very quick, it never drags, and there's always something going on. And like Prime Empire, the characterization of the ninja is really fun to watch, and it's just a ball. I think the island being this short really works in its favor. When people want the island to be a full season, I get really confused because I genuinely do not know what you would fit into 16 episodes. This 4-episode special is perfectly fine as is in my opinion. Another thing I really like about the island is that it addresses one of the criticisms of Prime Empire not having any impact on Ninjago, because the island takes the escaped prisoners from Prime Empire and makes them the antagonists of this special. And that's critical because this special highly affects the next season's plot. I liked that about it. There is no groundbreaking character moments, and there is weird stuff like Ronan's characterization, but I did like Ronan in this. It's perfectly in character for Ronan to just do his own thing for the money, and him and the ninja aren't really enemies in this. It's more so a, aw shucks, he's gone and done it again. But the main thing that I really do like about this special that I don't see a lot of people talking about is how it feels like a perfect bookend to Lloyd's overall story. Again, in the Ice chapter, Lloyd had so much trauma and he was trying to get past it. And then after the Ice chapter, he managed to bring his walls down after getting knocked back a lot and decided that it was time that he reflected on himself. In Season 12, we see that progress even more, and in Season 13, we see that he is going in circles in an endless cycle of trauma that keeps repeating itself. And in the island, we meet Twitchy Tim, who is also in an endless cycle of trauma, and he fears that this will keep repeating, just like Lloyd last season, who was also in an endless cycle. But Lloyd is able to tell Tim that even though you've been knocked down a lot, that doesn't mean you have to stay down, and you're much stronger than that. And it's very, very, very simple and not groundbreaking, but I think it's a nice, sweet cap off to Lloyd's whole trauma arc. And I really, really do think that they shouldn't have brought up Harumi or any trust issues or anything like that for Lloyd after this. It's a nice, down-to-earth moment for him that really has his whole story that started from Season 8 come full circle, in my opinion. Overall, the island doesn't do much. It's not anything groundbreaking, but it is a fun ride, and I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy watching it. I think that this was a nice special to release for the 10th anniversary of Ninjago, and it does Lloyd a lot of good. Seabound. And now we come to Seabound, what is arguably the most loved season in this era, the peak of Wildbrain, as many people will call it. Everything was leading up to this. Their quality was slowly growing until they hit their peak. Season 14, Seabound. I think it's alright. I'm not absolutely in love with this season like other people are. Now don't get me wrong, I really, really, really do like this season and I have so much fun with it. But there's just some things that irk me about the season, and I want to go through them really quickly first. The middle of the season is fairly lacking. I'd say from episode 5 to episode 9 are pretty meh. They have great moments, but overall they're very slow with the exception of episode 6. Every other episode in the season almost makes up for it. Kalmar is a very enjoyable villain, and I love watching him. His voice performance really carries him, but in my opinion that's all he has. In terms of being a villain, he's one of the weaker ones for me. His motive is very meh, and in my opinion he's a very watered down version of Pythor. He has great on-screen presence, but in terms of being an actual villain and an actual character, he falls extremely flat for me. But in my opinion, the biggest reason why the season doesn't work for me as much as it works for other people is Nia herself. This is a Nia season, and you'd expect me to love her in this season, but I don't really love the direction of her story here. The main thing is that Nia has to learn about sacrifice, and that sometimes in life there are no good choices. It's a really deep message to send to kids, but Nia's already learned this. Nia made several sacrifices in her life. Sacrifices in what role she played. In fact, in Skybound, she makes several sacrifices and makes a big one that ultimately ends up having her almost die. Nia knows about sacrifice, so I don't know why the season insists on making this a big message for her. It's really weird. But the finale with Nia, I'm very conflicted about it. It's very well done and extremely emotional, but it once again boils down to Nia losing her identity and not having much choice in the matter. Nia has always been about wanting to make her own choices in life and wanting to forge her own identity. That was the whole point of Samurai X, that she had her own choice and she made her own identity, that she wasn't known as just Kai's sister or just Jay's girlfriend, and she wanted an identity. But the conclusion of her own season is for her to lose her identity. In a way, I think it kind of works as a sort of tragic season for Nia, but I still feel like they could have done it a bit more tastefully, because it really doesn't hit as hard as it should for Nia in my opinion, because it doesn't fully go into her actual character and it kind of goes against what Nia is supposed to be. It's not an awful problem, but it's just something that I'm a little mixed on. It does feel like I hate the season, but not at all. I actually really like Seabound, and I would recommend it in a heartbeat to anyone. The consequences of this season are massive. Actually writing off a ninja is extremely big. Even if it wasn't permanent, there was no signs in this season that she was coming back. So for a full year, you would have been led to believe that Nia was gone for good. Of course, we all knew she would come back in some way, but to a general viewer, that was massive. And the way they do it is very mature. They don't sugarcoat it, they don't pull any punches, it's straight to the point that the Nia we know of is gone. And everyone's reactions to this is so raw. It really pulls at your heartstrings in my opinion, the final few episodes. What I absolutely love about Seabound is how cinematic it is. The final 4 episodes are so massive. It's this massive event. The city is in the most danger it's ever been put in my opinion. This is the most cinematic Ninjago has ever been, in my opinion. Even beating out the cinematic movie. I will say that this is way more of a threat than anything in Crystalized, because this is a massive flood. Not to mention, it looks amazing with the animation. The presentation of the final 4 episodes is outstanding and one of the high points of Ninjago as a franchise. Wu is awesome. I haven't talked about him that much in this, but I love how he started as a curmudgeon and then feeling useless when he's outperformed in season 11 and 12. And then in season 13, he finally builds that confidence back up with the help of Cole. And then in season 14, he is incredible. His fights are awesome. He doesn't care about his age at all. He's just going at it and living life. An awesome character story for him that carries into season 14. But I think the main reason that I do like Seabound, and the best thing about Seabound for me that puts it above any other season in this regard, is the theme of family and the heart it has. Very rarely in Ninjago is family a major part of a season. But for Seabound, that's what it is. It fully focuses on family. It focuses on Nia and Maya repairing their relationship, and it's really nice to see after all these years, how they didn't just become close as soon as Maya came back. They have to actually work for it, and a lot of their scenes are very heartwarming and sweet. I love the first few episodes of Seabound because we get more down-to-earth stuff with the ninja and Ray and Maya. Ray and Kai's scenes are so funny. I love their dynamic so much, especially since Kai was so mad in season 7 towards his parents. The fact that he's gotten closer to them since is really sweet, which parallels Nia not being close to them at all. And it is so heartbreaking that once Nia and Maya finally get close, Nia is taken away from them. It's really impactful. I also love how it's not just these guys that have a dynamic. The ninja feel more like a family than they ever have. I love the second ninja team for the season because it's filled with Kai, Cole, Wu, and Ray. Ray is Kai's father figure and Wu is Cole's father figure. It's so good. I also love how it's Kai and Cole get their own subplot. I can't hate the season when it has that. That's just awesome. We also get stuff with Antonia and Nelson and their bond and how they really are inseparable, which is honestly my favorite episode of the entire season. And I do like Lloyd, how he's just really happy in this season, which shows how much he has come since season 8. The final episodes, regardless of some of my issues with how the sacrifice plays out, is extremely emotional and does get you very teary. Because you've seen in this entire season how close everyone is. And to lose even one member is heartbreaking. Jay and Nia's relationship is a major focus, and this is arguably the peak of Jay in this era as well. And his reaction to all this is just so heartbreaking. The voice performance and everything is great, and having the ninja comfort each other in the finale is just so heartwarming. So overall, I do think Seabound deserves a lot of the praise it has gotten, and I really do like it a lot, despite a lot of my issues. It definitely is a testament to how far Ninjago it came at the time. This era of Ninjago is simply remarkable. I personally love it so much, and in my opinion, it is my all-time favorite era of Ninjago of all time. In my opinion, it doesn't really skip out on any area really. All ninja get focus, and we get some really nice moments with them that really tell a lot about their characters. We get full seasons for Cole and Nia, finally. We get nice closure on Jay. We get some nice, promising moments for Kai and Zane. And Lloyd's story goes over pretty much every installment in this era. And I love how each season ties into each other in some way. This isn't a linear story. Each season goes into each other. It's not just this season causes the next and then the next and then the next. They all overlap with each other. And that's why I think this is my favorite era of all time. In terms of ranking these installments, I think it would have to go like this. Number 6, the Fire chapter. It's not bad, and I do like it, but it doesn't stand out mainly, and it mainly just works as a fun, nice start to this era. Nothing more, but nothing less. It's definitely not bad like people say it is. Number 5 is the Island. I do love the Island a lot, but you can't really put it much higher than this for what it is. It's really fun, animation is beautiful, and I love what they do with Lloyd, how it's a bookend to his story. Number 4 is Seabound. I've just listed the issues I have with it, but I still love Seabound. It's still a really good watch and a very high quality season of a kids show. This is going to be really hard with the top 3. But at number 3, I think it would have to go to Prime Empire. Yes, my video is outdated. Prime Empire is not my favorite season. It definitely is up there though. It is still an absolute joy to watch, and probably is the season that makes me the most happiest out of any Ninjago season. I just love it a lot. Now, number 2, the runner-up, goes to the Ice chapter. Anytime I watch the Ice chapter, I love it more and more. Lloyd's story is just so heartwarming and super inspirational in my opinion. The atmosphere of the entire chapter is really awesome. I just really like this chapter, and I do think it's severely underrated and needs a lot more appreciation. But number 1 is Master of the Mountain. This is my all-time favorite Ninjago season of all time. Fact, done deal. And it will likely never be topped. Cole's story about his leadership, living up to his mother, standing up to those who are cruel and unjust, and how this is a story about self-worth and what you can do. This season makes me so happy and is everything I wanted in not just a Cole season, but in a season of Ninjago in general. Master of the Mountain is purely brilliant, and I love it with all my heart. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Crystalized, the last season of this era and of this show as a whole. Number 7. I will get to you very soon. Just you wait, Crystalized. Well, thank you so much to all the 4 people that watched this video. It means a lot. Originally, I was just planning on making a Crystalized video, which I actually started last month. But then, halfway through that, I decided that I wanted to make this just to get my thoughts on the era as a whole out right before Dragon's Rising, which will also help with the Crystalized review. Now, I didn't originally want to make a Crystalized review because I have negative opinions on it, but I thought I would anyways, just to get my personal thoughts on it out before Dragon's Rising comes out, and then at the end of the year I can compare the two and see what Dragon's Rising has done after Crystalized. So yeah, hopefully that'll be out before Dragon's Rising comes out. I can't make any promises, but I will hopefully have it out by the end of the month. I'll also have another video out with someone else that'll be very interesting to say the least, so you can also look forward to that, all the 4 people that are watching. And the last thing I want to talk about in terms of videos is, yeah, I was going to make a 3rd lava video, and I still will, but I would usually do them on the 1st of April, like I did with the last 2 I did, but I missed the day because got busy with stuff. But at this point, I am definitely still making the video because it's going to be much bigger than the other 2, and I'm really proud of it. It has a lot going on, but I think it'll probably not be until June or early July. But it definitely will come out at some stage. To all the lava people, don't worry. And I think it will be worth it, the wait. I'm very proud of it, what I'm going to be doing with it. The last thing I wanted to mention is my new avatar, in case people haven't noticed. That was made by Riley. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but thank you so much. I love it so much, and yeah, it's just amazing. I love it. Her link is in the description below if you want to check out her socials. She's really awesome, please do. It's amazing. And also thank you to Candy Dragon for making the actual Sona in the first place earlier this year. I love it so much. It's so goofy and silly. Oh my god, it's so good. I love it so much. But yeah, that'll be it for now. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all very soon.